Do you ever feel exhausted or drained after masturbation? It's a topic that doesn't get talked about much, but it's something that many people experience. Some might think of masturbation as an energy booster or even a stress reliever, but for others it leaves them feeling wiped out, both physically and emotionally. If you've ever found yourself asking whether masturbation is the reason you're feeling unusually tired or emotionally drained, you're not alone. Today, we're diving into a common but rarely discussed issue: whether masturbation can actually make you feel more tired or emotionally depleted than you might expect. The truth is, masturbation is often more complex than we realize. While it's often seen as a normal, natural act, the after effects can vary from person to person. You might feel relaxed, at peace, or even energized after, but for others, it leads to that all too familiar feeling of fatigue, sometimes even a sense of emotional heaviness. So why does this happen? Is it simply a matter of physical exertion, or is something deeper at play, perhaps linked to your emotional state or mental well-being? In this video, we're going to explore the fascinating science behind why masturbation can sometimes leave you feeling more tired or emotionally drained. From the release of key hormones to the potential impact on sleep and mental clarity, we'll uncover the reasons behind this complex relationship between your body and your mind. By the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer understanding of how masturbation impacts your energy levels, and more importantly, what you can do to manage those effects and avoid the cycle of regret or exhaustion. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll be equipped with the knowledge to make informed decisions about your habits and how they're affecting your well-being. This isn't just about understanding the physical effects, it's also about recognizing the emotional and psychological toll that overindulgence can take. So let's jump right in and get started. When we talk about the connection between masturbation and feelings of fatigue or emotional drain, it's important to understand that this isn't just about physical exertion. Yes, it can be physically tiring, but the effects go deeper. In fact, there's a fascinating science behind how masturbation impacts both the body and the mind, and it all begins with the hormones and neurotransmitters that are released during the act. These chemicals play a significant role in how we feel afterward, and they can explain why some people feel rejuvenated, while others experience tiredness or even emotional exhaustion. First, let's talk about the major players in the process: dopamine, oxytocin, and prolactin. These three hormones are closely linked to the feelings you experience post-masturbation. The first, dopamine, is known as the feel-good hormone. It's released during pleasurable activities, including sex and masturbation. Dopamine triggers feelings of pleasure and reward, and it's part of the reason why we return to certain activities for that hit of euphoria. In moderation, this rush of dopamine is often followed by a sense of calm, happiness, or even satisfaction. However, when dopamine levels spike too high or too quickly, your body can experience a subsequent crash. This crash occurs because dopamine doesn't stay elevated for long. As dopamine levels decrease, the body experiences a drop in overall energy, and this is where the fatigue comes in. For some, this drop can be relatively mild, just a temporary feeling of tiredness that passes after a short rest. But for others, this dip in dopamine levels can trigger deeper fatigue, especially if the activity is frequent or intense. But dopamine doesn't operate alone. It's joined by oxytocin, often referred to as the love hormone. Oxytocin is linked to bonding, connection, and relaxation. When you experience sexual pleasure, oxytocin is released, and it can make you feel more connected to yourself, or, in some cases, others. It's often released during intimate interactions or physical closeness, but it's also present during masturbation. The release of oxytocin helps you to relax and may even provide an overall sense of emotional well-being. However, just like dopamine, this hormone doesn't stay elevated forever. It eventually dips, which can sometimes contribute to feelings of emotional flatness or emptiness, especially after a period of heightened pleasure. Then there's prolactin, a hormone that plays a significant role in how we feel emotionally post-masturbation. Prolactin is primarily known for its role in the reproductive system, but it also impacts sexual satisfaction. After orgasm, prolactin levels surge, and this is often the reason why many people feel a sense of deep relaxation or even sleepiness. Prolactin induces feelings of satisfaction and is part of the body's way of signaling that the sexual release is complete. While prolactin's effects might seem benign, It's the post-pleasure drop in prolactin that can cause you to feel emotionally drained. When these hormonal levels drop after masturbation, your body may experience what's referred to as a neurochemical reset. This means that the body's balance of neurotransmitters is altered. While it may feel satisfying in the moment, the drop in dopamine and oxytocin levels paired with the rise and fall of prolactin can leave you feeling both physically drained and emotionally depleted. For some, this may be a temporary feeling, but for others, it can be a more prolonged experience, especially if masturbation is a regular habit. But the story doesn't end with the hormones alone. Masturbation also impacts sleep quality. Many people use masturbation as a means to relax or de-stress, and indeed it can help with sleep initiation. This is especially true if your body has released a flood of hormones like oxytocin and prolactin, which promote relaxation. The problem arises, however, when this practice becomes a regular routine. Over time, the body can become accustomed to using masturbation as a tool to initiate sleep, but this doesn't necessarily mean the quality of sleep will improve. In fact, some people find that after they masturbate and fall asleep, they wake up feeling more tired than usual. This is because the body doesn't always get the restorative sleep it needs, especially if the sleep cycle is disrupted by hormonal fluctuations. In addition to these physical effects, masturbation can also trigger emotional shifts that contribute to feeling drained. For many individuals, masturbation is tied to personal emotional states. If someone is using it as a means to cope with stress, loneliness, or anxiety, they may temporarily feel better in the moment, but afterward, they might experience emotional withdrawal. This is partly due to the hormonal shifts mentioned earlier, but it's also because of the emotional context surrounding the act. When people use masturbation as a way to relieve emotional tension or avoid uncomfortable feelings, they might not fully process those emotions, leaving them to resurface later, often manifesting as fatigue or a sense of being emotionally spent. What makes this particularly complex is that some individuals may not even realize that their emotional or mental exhaustion is linked to their habits surrounding masturbation. It's easy to think that masturbation is simply a physical activity, and that the emotional effects are secondary. But in reality, these effects are just as important, especially if the act is used as a form of emotional escapism. Emotional exhaustion can take a toll on mental clarity and even physical energy, and this hidden cycle can become difficult to break. One of the most interesting aspects of this phenomenon is how it's influenced by frequency. Masturbation itself isn't inherently harmful or energy draining. It's when it becomes frequent or compulsive that the negative effects start to build up. When someone masturbates regularly, especially if they are doing so to cope with stress or emotions, their body and mind can start to feel the wear and tear. The body may start to react to this cycle with increased feelings of fatigue, and emotionally, people may begin to feel detached, disconnected, or even guilt-ridden. These feelings can create a cycle where they use masturbation again to try to alleviate those emotions, only to end up feeling worse afterward. So what can be done to break the cycle and stop feeling drained after masturbation? The answer lies in moderation, self-awareness, and understanding. By becoming more mindful of your body's responses and limiting the frequency of masturbation, you can allow your body to maintain a healthier balance of hormones. If you've found that masturbation is leaving you tired or emotionally drained, it might be time to examine the underlying reasons for the act. Is it a reaction to stress or anxiety? Are you using it as an emotional crutch? Once you recognize these patterns, you can begin to make healthier choices for your body and mind. In the next section, we'll explore some practical strategies you can implement to ensure that masturbation doesn't leave you feeling exhausted, both physically and emotionally. Whether it's adjusting your habits, seeking alternative forms of stress relief, or simply learning to be more in tune with your body, these small changes can help you regain your energy and emotional balance. So stay tuned, because what comes next will help you break free from the cycle of fatigue and find a healthier relationship with yourself. Let's dive into the heart of the matter. How can we stop feeling emotionally drained or tired after masturbation? The first step in breaking this cycle is acknowledging that it's not about the act itself, but how we're using it. Many people don't realize that masturbation, like any other activity, can become a form of coping mechanism, especially if it's done frequently or for emotional relief. The key lies in self-awareness, balance, and moderation. First, let's address the emotional aspect. Masturbation can sometimes be used as a way to relieve stress, anxiety, or even loneliness. It can serve as a quick escape from overwhelming emotion. In the short term, it might work. There's an immediate rush of relief, as your body releases hormones that give you a sense of calm and satisfaction. But what happens when that relief is temporary? When the emotional weight resurfaces, we can easily find ourselves relying on the same method to cope, thus entering a cycle that doesn't actually address the underlying issue. This emotional crutch might feel necessary in the moment, but it doesn't provide a long-term solution. Recognizing the emotional triggers behind your need for masturbation is the first step to breaking this cycle. Ask yourself, are you using masturbation as a tool to manage stress or avoid emotions? Is it a form of escape or just a habitual action that you do without much thought? These questions might seem uncomfortable, but they're crucial. Being honest with yourself about why you're turning to masturbation can give you the insight needed to change your patterns. Once you understand the emotional reasons behind your behavior, you can begin to address the root cause instead of just the symptom. One of the most effective ways to stop the cycle of emotional exhaustion is to find alternative methods for stress relief or emotional management. Rather than turning to masturbation as a quick fix, consider healthier coping strategies that don't leave you feeling drained afterward. Physical activity is an excellent place to start. Exercise, even in small doses, can provide a significant boost in mood and energy, all without the hormonal crash associated with masturbation. Whether it's a brisk walk, a session at the gym, or a short yoga routine, moving your body helps release those feel-good endorphins, which can naturally improve your emotional state. Another alternative is practicing mindfulness or meditation. These practices help you become more attuned to your emotions, allowing you to process them in a healthy way instead of relying on temporary fixes. Meditation can also have long-term benefits, improving your ability to regulate stress, anxiety, and negative emotions, leaving you less likely to turn to masturbation as a form of escape. Start with just a few minutes each day, and gradually build up as you get more comfortable with the practice. Not only will you feel more in control of your emotions, but you'll also cultivate a sense of calm and presence that can help prevent those feelings of emotional exhaustion from taking over. Now let's talk about the physical aspect. As we discussed earlier, the hormonal fluctuations caused by masturbation, namely the dopamine, oxytocin, and prolactin shifts, can leave you feeling tired or emotionally drained. While this is a normal response, it doesn't mean you have to continue feeling this way. The secret is moderation. If you find that masturbation is causing you to feel physically tired or emotionally drained, consider reducing the frequency. This doesn't mean cutting it out entirely. Rather, it's about finding a balance that works for you. By allowing your body time to recover between sessions, you can avoid the hormonal crash and the subsequent fatigue. It's important to remember that the more you listen to your body, the better you'll understand its needs. If you notice that you're feeling consistently drained after masturbating, that's a sign to slow down and give your body the time it needs to recharge. Everyone's body is different, so it's important to find what frequency works best for you. What might be too much for one person could be completely fine for another. By paying attention to your physical and emotional responses, you can adjust your habits accordingly to maintain a healthy balance. But moderation doesn't just apply to masturbation. It's also about adopting a lifestyle that promotes overall well-being. Sleep is one of the most important factors when it comes to feeling energized and emotionally balanced. If you're not getting enough restful sleep, your body and mind will naturally feel fatigued and more susceptible to stress. So prioritizing good sleep hygiene is essential. This means setting a consistent sleep schedule, avoiding excessive screen time before bed, and creating a relaxing environment that encourages rest. By taking care of your sleep, you'll be able to recover from the hormonal shifts brought on by masturbation more effectively. Hydration and nutrition also play crucial roles in how we feel physically and emotionally. Dehydration and poor diet can leave you feeling sluggish, tired, and emotionally out of balance. It's important to drink enough water throughout the day and to fuel your body with whole, nutrient-dense foods. Avoid relying on processed foods and excessive caffeine, which can spike your energy levels temporarily but ultimately lead to a crash. Instead, opt for foods that stabilize your blood sugar and provide sustained energy, such as lean proteins, whole grains, and plenty of fruits and vegetables. Exercise, nutrition, and sleep are the foundational pillars of a balanced life. When you take care of these areas, you not only improve your physical health, but also your mental well-being. When you feel good physically, it becomes easier to manage emotions in a healthier way. And when you're able to manage your emotions, you're less likely to use masturbation as a coping mechanism. But it's not just about the physical habits, it's also about mental habits. Self-compassion is key. It's easy to feel guilty or frustrated if you fall into a cycle of using masturbation as a way to manage stress or emotions. But it's important to remember that these habits are often learned and can be unlearned with time and effort. Be kind to yourself and take small steps to change your behavior. Set realistic goals and celebrate your progress along the way. Changing any habit, especially one that's been ingrained over time, takes patience and persistence. Finally, consider talking to a therapist or counselor if you feel like masturbation is negatively affecting your emotional or physical well-being. There's no shame in seeking help, and a professional can help you uncover deeper emotional issues that may be contributing to your current habits. Sometimes just having someone to talk to can be a huge step toward breaking the cycle. Breaking the cycle of emotional exhaustion and physical drain caused by masturbation starts with self-awareness and balance. By addressing the underlying emotional triggers, practicing moderation, and adopting healthy habits, you can avoid the feelings of fatigue and an emotional withdrawal that may follow. Remember that your body and mind need balance, and it's up to you to create a lifestyle that supports both. By taking control of your habits and emotions, you'll find that you can break free from the cycle and feel more energized, emotionally balanced, and at peace with yourself. When you start asking yourself whether masturbation is making you feel emotionally drained or just physically tired, it's essential to explore the psychological impact it might have on your overall well-being. Most people don't consider the emotional aftermath of masturbation, but the truth is that it can be a significant factor in how we feel afterward, particularly when it's done frequently or in a particular emotional context. Understanding the emotional repercussions can be key to understanding why you feel drained after an act that's generally considered a private and natural part of life. The connection between your emotional state and physical energy levels is more profound than you may realize. First, let's break down what might be happening emotionally. Think about your typical day. You're likely running on a mixture of stress, work demands, relationship dynamics, or personal concerns. Many people turn to masturbation as a form of stress relief or emotional comfort when they're overwhelmed, anxious, or lonely. The immediate relief you might feel is real. That temporary high comes from the release of chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, which create feelings of pleasure and satisfaction. However, that immediate rush fades quickly, and what follows is often not a peaceful, rested state, but an emotional letdown. It's not uncommon to feel a sense of emptiness or guilt right after, especially if the act was done to alleviate emotional pain rather than as a form of healthy self-expression. This emotional letdown comes from a couple of key mechanisms. First, when your body releases these pleasure hormones in response to masturbation, you experience a quick high, but what goes up must come down, and this drop can leave you feeling low, emotionally depleted, or even anxious. It's a phenomenon similar to a sugar rush, followed by a crash. What was once an intense burst of energy and pleasure can quickly turn into exhaustion. If you're using masturbation as a coping mechanism for deeper emotional issues, this low can feel even more profound, leaving you feeling emotionally drained, disconnected, or dissatisfied with yourself. It's important to note that guilt is another emotional response tied to this. If masturbation is used as a quick fix for emotional issues, or if it's done in secrecy, it can bring on feelings of shame. You may tell yourself that you're not supposed to rely on it or that it's unhealthy to do so frequently. These feelings of guilt compound the emotional strain, making you feel worse after the fact. This leads to a vicious cycle. You use masturbation to escape emotional discomfort, but the act itself generates guilt, which only exacerbates the very feelings you tried to escape in the first place. The key here is to differentiate between healthy self-care and a form of emotional avoidance. Masturbation itself is natural and can be a perfectly healthy and satisfying form of self-care when approached mindfully and in moderation. However, when it's used as a crutch for emotional avoidance, it's no longer serving its true purpose. Instead, it becomes a temporary escape from facing underlying issues. This is where it can start making you feel emotionally drained. Rather than confronting the emotions that triggered the urge to masturbate, you're suppressing them, and that's a heavy emotional burden to carry. Over time, this avoidance can build up, and the emotional drain becomes more intense, creating a vicious cycle. But here's the thing, it's not all doom and gloom. The fact that you're acknowledging how you feel is the first crucial step toward creating healthier habits. If you recognize that masturbation is becoming an emotional coping mechanism, you can begin to shift the focus from escaping to self-expression. The goal is to approach masturbation not as a tool for avoiding uncomfortable emotions, but as an opportunity for self-care. This means not using it as a quick fix for underlying issues like loneliness, stress, or anxiety. Instead, start paying attention to your emotional state and what's really triggering the need to masturbate. What emotions are you running from? Is it stress, boredom, loneliness, anxiety? This self-awareness can help you take proactive steps in managing your emotions in a healthier way. For instance, if you find yourself using masturbation to cope with stress, it might be time to explore other stress relief techniques that don't lead to emotional exhaustion. Physical exercise is one powerful option. When you engage in exercise, your body releases endorphins, which provide a natural boost to your mood and energy levels, just like masturbation, but without the emotional fallout. Exercise also offers the added benefit of improving your overall health and well-being. It's not a one-time escape, it's an ongoing, sustainable way to address stress. Meditation and mindfulness practices are other great alternatives. When you meditate, you're not just zoning out, you're actively working to understand and address your emotion. By sitting with your feelings rather than running from them, you can develop a healthier relationship with your emotional state. Mindfulness also helps you develop emotional resilience, so you're less likely to turn to masturbation as a crutch. The idea isn't to judge yourself for using masturbation as a tool for emotional relief, but to learn how to break the habit and address your feelings in more holistic ways. When you start practicing mindfulness, you'll notice that the urge to masturbate as an escape starts to lessen, and in its place you'll develop healthier coping mechanisms. Another important part of breaking this cycle is to give yourself permission to be human. Everyone goes through ups and downs emotionally, and masturbation in and of itself isn't inherently bad. It's the frequency, context, and emotional associations that we need to examine. If masturbation becomes your only form of emotional regulation, that's when it crosses a line. But that doesn't mean you need to feel guilty about it. Rather, it's about self-awareness and making conscious decisions about how you deal with your emotions. If you've been relying on masturbation to cope, it may feel uncomfortable at first to break that cycle. But it's important to remember that taking the time to address your emotions, whether through journaling, talking to a friend, or practicing stress management techniques, will not only help you feel emotionally lighter, but also restore your energy levels. You won't feel physically drained because you won't be depleting your reserves through emotional avoidance. Instead, you'll be replenishing your emotional and physical energy by confronting issues in a healthier, more balanced way. Ultimately, the key to breaking free from feeling emotionally drained or tired after masturbation is balance. Understanding why you turn to it in the first place is the first step. Once you identify the emotional triggers, you can start addressing them more healthily, which will in turn reduce the emotional strain and physical exhaustion. It's all about finding equilibrium between self-care, emotional management, and self-awareness. As you replace the emotional cycle of avoidance with healthier alternatives, you'll find yourself feeling more energized, mentally clear, and emotionally grounded. By practicing self-compassion and patience with yourself, you'll be able to shift your habits and create a healthier, more sustainable approach to both masturbation and emotional regulation. As you move forward, focus on being present in the moment and making choices that genuinely serve your well-being physically, emotionally, and mentally. This way, you won't just stop feeling drained after masturbation. You'll also create a life filled with deeper emotional fulfillment, connection, and lasting energy. When we discuss the impact of masturbation on our energy levels, it's essential to explore not only the emotional effects, but also the physical consequences that can sometimes come with frequent masturbation. Many people experience a sense of physical fatigue or tiredness following the act, and it's crucial to examine why that happens. The connection between our body and energy after masturbation is more than just a feeling of tiredness. It can be linked to physiological changes that impact how we feel in the hours and even days following the act. The physical aftermath is often ignored or misunderstood, but by recognizing how your body responds, you can make healthier, more informed choices about your habits. First, let's start by talking about the biological response that takes place when you orgasm. During ejaculation, your body undergoes a series of chemical and physical processes, including the release of neurochemicals like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These chemicals are all associated with pleasure, relaxation, and satisfaction. They give you that moment of joy and release. But there's a downside. Once the high fades, the body can experience a kind of crash that can leave you feeling drained and sluggish. The feeling of fatigue that follows is natural, as your body works to restore balance after a hormonal release. It's similar to the crash that can occur after an intense workout or a sugar rush. The difference here is that the crash comes from your body's physiological reaction to sexual release, and for some people, it can feel more significant. This drop in energy can be particularly noticeable if you are someone who masturbates frequently, or if you are using it as a means of emotional relief. The more frequently your body releases these chemicals, the more you may begin to experience energy depletion, because the body doesn't always have enough time to recover before another session. Masturbation and orgasm, especially when repeated in short intervals, can take a toll on your energy reserves. This is why some people feel tired or even sluggish after an intense or frequent session. It's important to note that the exhaustion isn't necessarily permanent, but it can last for hours or sometimes even longer, depending on how often it occurs. Another factor contributing to physical tiredness after masturbation is the release of the hormone prolactin. Prolactin is typically associated with feelings of satisfaction and relaxation, but it also plays a role in regulating energy levels. After orgasm, prolactin levels increase, contributing to the post-orgasmic relaxation feeling. This is a critical factor in understanding why you might feel tired afterward. Prolactin suppresses dopamine, which is responsible for that initial rush of energy and pleasure. With the reduction of dopamine and the rise in prolactin, your body transitions into a more relaxed, sluggish state. This can result in physical tiredness or a lack of motivation to do anything strenuous following masturbation. Interestingly, the timing of the physical tiredness is often linked to the individual's state of mind prior to masturbation. If you're already feeling emotionally drained, stressed, or anxious, masturbation might not only relieve stress, but also result in a more pronounced feeling of physical depletion afterward. This can create a feedback loop. You're stressed or tired, so you masturbate to relieve it, but the act of masturbation leaves you physically tired as well, which can sometimes make the initial feelings of stress and exhaustion return. The energy drain that comes from this cycle can make it difficult for you to feel truly energized and motivated to take on daily tasks. This sense of physical exhaustion is also tied to the restfulness of your sleep. After orgasm, the body typically enters a state of relaxation that often leads to better sleep. However, if masturbation is too frequent or done at irregular intervals, it can lead to a kind of sleep debt, where the body struggles to recover fully. This disruption in your sleep cycle can make you feel more tired during the day, affecting your overall energy levels. The lack of adequate rest and recovery can leave you feeling mentally foggy and physically sluggish, which could compound the feelings of tiredness that follow masturbation. On the other hand, if you find that masturbation doesn't cause you to feel physically drained, it may be because you're not relying on it as a form of stress relief, or you've balanced it with other healthy habits. People who maintain a healthy lifestyle, with regular exercise, a balanced diet, and good sleep hygiene, tend to feel less fatigued after masturbation, as their overall physical health helps to counteract the negative effects. Exercise in particular has a huge impact on energy levels. If you incorporate regular physical activity into your routine, it can significantly improve how you feel after masturbation. Regular exercise helps regulate the body's hormones, reduce stress, and promote better sleep, all of which play a role in how energized or tired you feel after sexual release. Moreover, the impact of masturbation on your energy levels isn't just about the physical act. It's also about your mental approach to it. If masturbation is something that leaves you feeling guilty or conflicted, it could contribute to an overall sense of mental and physical depletion. These negative emotions can drain your energy, making you feel worse after masturbation than if you had approached it in a healthy, non-judgmental way. Guilt and shame are powerful forces, and they can affect not just your emotional state, but also your physical well-being. So how can you mitigate the physical exhaustion that sometimes follows masturbation? The key is balance. While the act itself may not be inherently bad or tiring, the frequency, context, and your emotional state all play a role in how you feel afterward. One of the simplest solutions is to avoid using masturbation as a crutch for stress relief. This doesn't mean you have to give it up entirely, but it's about becoming more mindful of when and why you do it. Use it for relaxation, pleasure, or self-care, but not as a reaction to emotional exhaustion. This can make the experience far more satisfying and leave you feeling energized afterward. Another way to prevent excessive tiredness is to improve your overall health habits. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, eating well, and engaging in regular physical activity. When your body is healthy and well rested, it can recover faster and more effectively from the temporary drop in energy caused by hormonal shifts. Healthy habits can help regulate your energy levels, so you won't experience a lasting fatigue after masturbation. Additionally, staying mentally and emotionally balanced will reduce the need to rely on masturbation as an emotional escape, which can lead to an overall improvement in how you feel physically after the act. One more aspect to consider is frequency. If you find yourself engaging in masturbation more than you'd like, it may be a sign that you're using it as a way to escape from stress or negative emotions. In such cases, it's helpful to explore alternative coping strategies, like journaling, speaking with a therapist, or practicing mindfulness techniques. These approaches can help you address the root cause of your need for emotional release without depleting your energy in the process. Ultimately, the way masturbation affects your energy is a deeply personal experience, influenced by a combination of your physical health, emotional state, and how you approach it mentally. By finding a healthy balance and ensuring you're taking care of your overall well-being, you can reduce the negative physical effects and boost your energy, leaving you feeling refreshed instead of drained. Masturbation doesn't have to be an energy-draining experience. When approached mindfully and with balance, it can be a healthy and revitalizing part of your life. Masturbation is a natural and normal part of life, but there's something that isn't often discussed: how it might affect your energy levels and emotional state. For some people, it's a brief moment of pleasure, followed by an emotional and physical reset. But for others, it can feel like something much more draining. The emotional toll can be real, leaving you feeling tired or even emotionally spent. But what's really going on beneath the surface? The connection between energy levels and masturbation isn't as straightforward as it may seem. There's a delicate balance between the physical satisfaction and how it impacts your body. And this balance can change depending on several factors. These factors include frequency, emotional connection, and how your body processes arousal and orgasm. So let's dig into why masturbation could be making you tired, or even emotionally drained, and what you can do about it. First off, let's acknowledge something crucial. Everyone's body is different. While some people feel energized after masturbation, others feel like they just ran a marathon. This is entirely normal. But what determines whether you'll feel invigorated or depleted? It largely has to do with how your nervous system responds. When you orgasm, your body releases a cocktail of hormones, including oxytocin, dopamine, and prolactin. These hormones are responsible for feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, and bonding, but they also play a role in your energy levels. Oxytocin is known as the love hormone, and while it's essential for feelings of connection and relaxation, it can also make you feel sleepy. Prolactin, on the other hand, is thought to play a role in reducing sexual desire after orgasm, making you feel more chilled out, but also less energetic. This hormonal cocktail is why some people feel physically relaxed or sleepy after masturbation, especially if they've done it for an extended period or after a particularly intense experience. But this is where things get tricky. The more frequently someone masturbates, especially if it's done excessively or to escape emotional stress, the more likely it is that they'll begin to feel drained or emotionally disconnected. Masturbating excessively can lead to feelings of guilt or shame, which further depletes emotional energy. If you're using it as a coping mechanism for stress or negative emotions, your body is tricked into associating orgasm with an emotional reset. While it provides short-term relief, it doesn't tackle the root cause of those emotions. There's also the matter of physical recovery. After you orgasm, your body goes through a refractory period. This is the time it takes for your sexual system to reset. During this time, you might feel exhausted or mentally drained. It's particularly common if someone hasn't been sleeping well or has been pushing their body too hard in other ways. If you're feeling worn out more than usual, It could be a sign that your body is in need of more rest and recovery, and masturbation is amplifying that. But not all fatigue from masturbation is just about hormones or physical recovery. Let's explore another element: emotional exhaustion. If you're masturbating as a way to deal with loneliness, anxiety, or depression, you may find that you're feeling emotionally drained afterward. Why? Because when your body is in a heightened emotional state, engaging in sexual activity, even alone, can intensify those emotions. If you're not addressing the emotional cause of your stress or loneliness, masturbation may offer a temporary release, but it doesn't solve the deeper issues. For example, let's imagine someone who is feeling lonely. They might turn to masturbation to relieve that emptiness, but instead of addressing the loneliness head-on by seeking social connections or finding healthier coping strategies, they are using masturbation as a shortcut. While it might offer temporary pleasure, the emotional void remains, leading to a cycle of feeling emotionally drained afterward. The paradox is that the more frequently you use it to cover up negative emotions, the less it actually fulfills you in the long run. What about mental exhaustion? The mind and body are deeply connected, and when you're stressed, mentally taxed, or emotionally drained, your energy levels tend to follow suit. Masturbation, in this case, can exacerbate feelings of being mentally depleted, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed or caught in a cycle of negative thoughts. This is why some people feel mentally foggy or worn out after an orgasm. Their mental state is fragile, and the release can leave them feeling emptied out. So how do you break the cycle of feeling drained both physically and emotionally after masturbation? The key lies in balance and intention. First, you need to assess your relationship with masturbation. Are you using it as a healthy form of self-care, or is it a reaction to negative feelings? If it's the latter, you might want to examine what's causing the emotional drain and find healthier ways to cope. This could involve seeking therapy, talking to someone about your feelings, or finding a support network. Next, the frequency of masturbation matters. Masturbating once in a while as part of a healthy routine is not inherently harmful. But if you're doing it too frequently, especially as a way to escape from deeper issues, it may be time to take a break. Your body needs balance, and when it's overworked or overstimulated, it's natural to feel exhausted afterward. Moderation is key. Another important factor is the state of your physical health. If you're not getting enough sleep, eating poorly, or not exercising regularly, masturbation can exacerbate feelings of fatigue. Make sure you're taking care of your body in other areas. Ensure you're getting adequate rest, hydrating, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle, as these will all help your body recover after sexual activity. Finally, take time to reflect on your mental and emotional state. If you're using masturbation to deal with emotional challenges, it's worth exploring other ways to process those feelings. Sometimes talking to a friend, practicing mindfulness, or even journaling can help you release those emotions in a healthier way. Self-care should feel nourishing, not draining, and finding a balance that works for you is the key. When it comes to discussing masturbation and its impact on our overall energy and emotional state, one of the most important aspects is the deeper connection between mind and body. While the physical effects of orgasm, like the release of various hormones, are well known, the psychological and emotional aspects are often overlooked. It's easy to assume that the only consequence of masturbation is physical tiredness or a temporary emotional reset. But the reality is far more complex, and understanding this complexity is crucial. Let's start by recognizing that masturbation, like most things in life, is not inherently good or bad. It's how it's used, and how often it occurs, that makes the difference. In moderation, it can be a healthy and normal part of a person's routine, contributing to a sense of release, pleasure, and relaxation. But as with anything, when done excessively or used as a primary outlet for dealing with stress or emotional issues, it can leave you feeling drained, both physically and emotionally. And that's where the problem lies. When we rely too heavily on masturbation as an emotional coping mechanism, we risk creating a cycle of dependency that doesn't address the root causes of our fatigue. Think about this. You've had a long, stressful day. You feel overwhelmed, and perhaps lonely. And in an effort to cope with those emotions, you turn to masturbation for relief. The physical act provides temporary satisfaction and a quick emotional release. But once the pleasure fades, you're left with a lingering sense of emptiness. This is because the emotional or mental stress that prompted the action hasn't been dealt with. It's simply been momentarily covered up. Now, not only do you feel physically drained, but also emotionally unfulfilled, creating a cycle of seeking pleasure to avoid discomfort without truly addressing the underlying issues. This cycle can be particularly harmful when it becomes repetitive. You might begin to notice that the emotional satisfaction from masturbation is diminishing over time. What once provided relief now only leaves you feeling more depleted, more disconnected, and more in need of escape. This is when the relationship between masturbation and emotional exhaustion becomes dangerously close, and it's easy to slip into a pattern where you use it as a way to avoid facing deeper emotional issues, which only leads to further exhaustion and frustration. Another significant factor in this emotional drain is the way masturbation can affect your mental clarity and focus. After orgasm, the body releases a series of chemicals, including prolactin, which is responsible for creating feelings of satisfaction and relaxation. While this can be beneficial in terms of emotional reset, it can also lead to feelings of mental fog or a lack of motivation. Some individuals find that after masturbating, they experience a temporary drop in energy or an inability to concentrate on tasks. This is not necessarily a negative thing, it's just the body's natural way of responding to the release of chemicals. But when this happens too frequently, it can start to feel like a mental drain rather than a rejuvenating experience. But there's hope. Breaking the cycle of emotional and physical depletion doesn't have to be a long, difficult process. It starts with acknowledging the connection between masturbation, emotions, and energy levels. You don't have to eliminate masturbation altogether, but it may be time to reassess how often it's happening, and more importantly, the reasons behind it. If you find yourself turning to it when you're stressed, anxious, or feeling emotionally overwhelmed, take a step back and ask yourself if it's truly helping or just providing temporary relief. In many cases, addressing the underlying emotions, whether that means seeking support, practicing mindfulness, or even engaging in physical activity, can be more effective at reducing stress and emotional fatigue. One of the most important things you can do is practice balance. It's all about moderation and ensuring that masturbation is a part of a healthy and balanced lifestyle, not a crutch for emotional avoidance. When used in healthy moderation, masturbation can be an enjoyable and stress-relieving activity. But when it starts becoming the go-to solution for every emotional low, that's when it can lead to the feelings of exhaustion and emotional drain we've been discussing. At the same time, maintaining other healthy habits can help mitigate any negative impact masturbation might have. Ensuring you're getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, staying physically active, and managing stress through relaxation techniques like deep breathing or yoga can all help prevent emotional depletion. By building up these other areas of your life, you give your body and mind more tools to cope with stress, and as a result, masturbation doesn't have to bear the full burden of emotional release. Ultimately, the key to breaking the emotional exhaustion cycle is creating awareness around your habits and their underlying causes. If you find that masturbation is making you feel more drained, it's time to take a step back, reflect on your emotional and physical needs, and adjust accordingly. It's about shifting the focus from using it as an emotional crutch to understanding it as just one of many ways to care for yourself. Remember, your energy, both physical and emotional, is a valuable resource. Being conscious of how you spend that energy, whether it's through physical activity, emotional self-care, or even masturbation, can make all the difference in maintaining a healthy, balanced, and fulfilling life. And the more you learn to listen to your body and address its true needs, the better you'll feel overall. So take control, embrace balance, and don't let masturbation become something that leaves you feeling drained. Instead, let it be a part of a healthy, well-rounded lifestyle. In conclusion, understanding the impact of masturbation on our energy levels and emotional well-being is crucial for maintaining a healthy balance in life. While it's a natural and often positive part of self-care, it's important to recognize when it begins to contribute to feelings of exhaustion or emotional drain. The key here is not to demonize masturbation, but to understand how to use it in a way that complements rather than disrupts your overall health. By acknowledging that emotional fatigue and physical depletion can be connected to the frequency and context in which we engage in masturbation, we can start to make more informed decisions about it. When used as an occasional form of relaxation or pleasure, masturbation can be healthy and even beneficial. However, When it becomes a primary method of coping with stress, loneliness, or emotional discomfort, it can leave us feeling more drained and less connected to our deeper needs. The real solution lies in moderation and self-awareness. It's about striking a balance where masturbation becomes just one tool among many for managing emotions and stress. By addressing underlying issues like anxiety, depression, or loneliness, with healthier coping mechanisms such as exercise, mindfulness, or connecting with others, we can reduce the reliance on masturbation as an emotional escape. It's also about recognizing that no single action should bear the weight of our emotional well-being. A holistic approach to health that includes proper sleep, a nutritious diet, and regular physical activity can help keep us energized and emotionally balanced. Remember, the goal is not to avoid masturbation altogether, but to use it consciously, in a way that enhances your overall quality of life, rather than depletes it. When you feel energized, emotionally stable, and fulfilled in other areas of your life, masturbation can continue to be a healthy and enjoyable part of your routine. By taking a step back and reassessing how often and why we turn to masturbation, we can make smarter choices about our energy and well-being. As you reflect on your habits, ask yourself, is masturbation making me feel better or just temporarily relieving stress? Am I using it as a tool for emotional healing, or merely as a way to avoid deeper feelings? Taking these moments of self-reflection can help you reclaim your energy, reduce emotional fatigue, and ultimately live a more balanced and fulfilling life. So, the next time you find yourself reaching for that quick relief, remember that there are other healthier ways to care for your mind and body, ensuring that you have the energy and emotional strength to thrive.